We have already tested different engine versions of the all-new BMW X5, and today is one you especially wanted to see. This one here is the 45e. What's that? Yeah, let's just easier say it's the plug-in hybrid or the PHEV of the BMW X5. In exterior, interior and driving experience with this electric technology or half electrified and everything of that on Autogefühl with Thomas in Full HD, full screen and full length. Let's go! Please subscribe to us if you haven't done so far, and thank you so much if you are with us for a long time already. This one here, the X5 in the new generation, has this bigger double kidney, really massive, also with adaptive air intakes. They only open on demand and more horizontally drawn headlamps and nice daytime running light signature. Optional, you can get adaptive LEDs, the normal LEDs are standard, and optional, the laser lights with even more high beam functionality, and you can see that in the blue accentuations right there. This one here does not have a special sporty line. You can see here there's more this off-road contrast in the lower parts, so I think, that also fits to the car very well. Also soon more about discussion about the wheel arches. Do you like the new X5 in design in the front? And if it's a PHEV or not, in the front you cannot really see it. And that's also, a lot of the times now with the PHEVs that manufacturers say, let's just make them normal looking. Just over 4 meters 90, 16 foot 2 or 195 inches is the X5. And this is a little bit longer, also a little bit more wheelbase than the previous generation. More if you consider the previous PHEV, and the nowadays PHEV has been done under the hood. Soon more to that. Here with the crossover wheel arches, in the sporty lines it's also available in vehicle color, but I actually prefer it with SUVs as it is here right now, because that says, hey, I'm an SUV. An optional 21-inch wheels, so one of the biggest that are available. Yeah, you can also live with smaller ones, then you have a little bit more dampening comfort. Usually an X5 is also available with a standard adaptive suspension, and an option you can go for the air suspension. Here the plug-in hybrid comes standard with the air suspension, because they say, BMW says, our customers will go for the PHEV rather want, the luxury and comfort and calmness, not the most aggressive driving behavior. And so the air suspension here is already standard. And, both suspension are actually doing a good job. So, yeah, it's definitely no loss for that. Here in the white color for today, then we have interesting design elements here, for example, but this one is all closed off, no function in this case, contrasting in the lower part, and the classic SUV styling here then also with dark windows to make it a little bit more aggressive together with those black wheels. So yeah, although it's not a special sporty line, it already looks quite sporty even as a PHEV if you do those black things around. The new X5 looks a little sportier in the rear, especially due to those new tail lamps, and they are even a little bit three-dimensional. That's what I like about them. This one, by the way, the X-Line. X-Line is characterized that you have those gray or silver contrast here in the lower, and also seen it in the front part. Then you have those beauty exhaust tips on the outside and the real exhaust on the inside from this 3-liter 6-cylinder, and talked about it quite a lot with the designer of the vehicle, and they actually use those outside tips because they say they don't want to use pure fake exhaust tips like other manufacturers. They also want to have a little bit of a function, but still want to have a more expressive design than just the exhaust tips on the inside. And it also enables the exhaust to work with the material. For example, when you're driving high speed at a longer time, then the whole metal expands and gets longer, and so that's also why it's a little bit hidden in there, so it can go, for longer and shorter and so on. Yeah, some things tend to get a little bit longer when they're hot. So, under the hood, whereas the previous generation used the 2-liter 4-cylinder, now they switched the PHEV to the inline 6-cylinder, 3-liter of displacement, turbo petrol engine. And why did they do that? Well, talked to the engineer, and he actually said, yeah, we tried some things, comparing both engines, and this one was not less efficient than the small one in this combination. And so they thought, yeah, why not giving the customers 2 cylinders more? If you pay such a high price for a vehicle, you might be more satisfied with 6-cylinder and also appreciate more of the sound when you use the kickdown. And I mean, when it's also not less efficient, so why not in this case? So here, the total system output, electric motor and the combustion engine together is 394 horsepower, and it does not change anything from the all-wheel drive. It's a rear-wheel biased all-wheel drive system, and since the electric motor does not sit on a specific axle but is integrated actually in the transmission, so to say, nothing is changed as for the all-wheel drive characteristics. So it's all the time basically electric and combustion in this hybrid mode, and everything also on the 4 wheels, and that means also that this car can recuperate on both axles, so then the regenerative braking is also more efficient. So what about charging and battery and so on? So we're charging at the moment, and unfortunately only with a maximum of 3.7 kilowatt. Yeah, that's not too much, but the BMW philosophy is rather that you say, PHEV customers leave their car overnight somewhere, the battery is not too big, and then it doesn't matter anyway if it's that strong. Yeah, for short recharging, if you're at a public charging station, then it does make a difference. But for the normal use case, you charge at work or you charge at home and then again leave it in the basement garage or in your normal garage or whatever, then it's also fine that you cannot recharge that fast. So you would just use a normal household plug, for example. So charging power 3.7 kilowatt. Battery size is 24 kilowatt hours, and that's already quite reasonable for a PHEV. Remember, recently the GLE PHEV had 31 kilowatt hours, that is even a little bit bigger, and it was about 100 kilometers of pure electric range. And here now, with this battery, about 80 kilometers of pure electric range, that's about 50 miles. And considering other PHEVs, yeah, the GLE a little bit more now with the bigger battery, but comparing to other PHEVs, this one really one of the, most electric ranges ones already. So I think that already makes sense. One advantage of the PHEV is that you get an independent heating, as standard equipment. They can also, in this case, control it with this big computer key, as I always call it. But also keyless entry available, of course, and door closing sound. Yeah, quite solid from this big door, and also big door pockets, and a nice overall build quality. The ambient lighting will be used right there, and they really stepped up the build quality if you compare it to the previous generation. Then there's the M steering wheel, so you can also get a sporty styling in the interior if you like. The decor elements, in this case rather this, this is a structured material, looks aluminum alike but it's not aluminum, but definitely looks also quite good. Those seats are also available for the X5 in Sensatec, a sustainable material. In this case here the animal skin pack. Of course Sensatec would fit more to the PHEV, definitely, and they also expect a lot of California customers, especially who are already a little bit further as for the Eco7s. So let's get inside right here. And 1.86 or 6'1" leaves a lot of headroom still. There's also a panoramic roof available if you like one. Steering wheel, in this case here with the electric control. Right there you can get a good driving position, and if I compare it to the X6, for example, I always feel a little bit more spacious and open here in the X5, more comfortable seating position. And, from those SUVs, the X5, I think, is one of my favorites, definitely, if you compare it to competitors. And also X6 or the X7 even. This one here has, it's not that long as the X7, is a little bit more comfortable than the X6. So this would be rather my type from those big BMW SUVs, definitely. And PHEV, really looking forward to drive that one. Seats also with controls, for example, for the front part here. You can move that out electrically. Lumbar support, if you like one, it's also possible. And even the side bolsters can be made a little bit tighter or more open again. So, command, driving position, soft materials on the top dashboard. everything very solid. And those shifting pedals, by the way, they will be used still for the combustion engine, not to control the recuperation and so on. More details to that when we drive the car very soon. And for example, also with the adaptive cruise control, where you can also set this highway drive mode that the car almost drives autonomously, but you have to keep your hands on the steering wheel all the time. Interior overview. You can see here there's a separate climate unit. You can still control it while driving, like to do that, and with the screen right there. Then you have the steering wheel, which is in the M style. You can also get a different one. Right side for the voice control, for example. You can say hello BMW, or then use this button. That would also be possible to trigger it. Drive me to Audi Ingolstadt. Let's see what it does. Maybe it says, no, they suck, I don't go there. Oh, there it is, Audi AG. Yeah, shall we go there and mix them up a little bit? But you see that works very well for the GPS input. You can also change temperature, or maybe you have some, creative tasks for this vehicle. And as we are here right now at the GPS, there again, we're at the BMW Welt here today. So this famous tourist attraction, one of the most famous tourist attractions in Germany, actually. And that's the cylinder building from BMW, the headquarters, and this is all, the plant. Of course, the new 3 Series is also majorly built right here. So very satisfied with the GPS, how it leads us, etc. Then there's the car menu where I can, for example, here plan the charging, if that's relevant for you. Preconditioning on departure is possible, for example. So a little bit more electric stuff you can do here. Vehicle status, tire pressure monitor, but even more important is how the Apple CarPlay looks like with the wireless connection. Integrated very well in this 12.3-inch screen on the left side. And, well, music system, we have the optional Harman Kardon system here, and this sounds really, really very well. I like it. Special surround sound and crystal clear. Yeah, really amazing. Oh, and I can also recommend this song here by Garrett Aramey, of course. So then go back here to the BMW menu right there. And that's it as for the right side of the infotainment. Then again, this structure here, it feels very nice. There you hear actually what structure it is. Then you slide this one open. There's the inductive charging pad for your phone, which makes sense with the wireless Apple CarPlay. Android Auto still not available. BMW and Porsche, they both say, yeah, our customers use mainly Apple. Probably don't want to pay some license fees. Then USB-A charger, and then we have heated or cooled cup holders. They're also adaptive, but that's again, of course, an option. Like many things, like also this crystal shifting lever. It looks fancy. It can have some glares when there's direct sunlight. Probably I would just take it with the normal black one. Then there's also this camera button here, for example, for the special camera. Soon more to that. Then the driving modes. Hybrid will combine everything and just decide on its own. And then there's also the Eco Pro hybrid mode, which then takes into account if your car is driving in front of you, more recuperation and so on. And then electric mode will use the electric drive predominantly, only combustion engine on kick down. Then there's also the air suspension, which is standard here. You can also lower the car by 4 centimeters or raise the car by 4 centimeters. And you also don't have to do everything via touch. You can also write letters for an address input, or you can just turn and press and also use the hotkeys right there. That actually comes quite handy. And then this middle armrest here with nice sensitive cover splits open like this. And then there's USB-C charger with really reasonable space underneath. Camera image is really very cool, good resolution. This is the rear view camera. This is the fake drone view from above. They can also see the sides. If you put gear to the front with this most sophisticated system, you can also see the front camera. Reversing assistant is very interesting because the car goes back the way you came. That might be interesting if you went down the way. It's like, oh, I won't continue that way further in that basement garage. It's just too narrow. Let me drive back again. Then the car does take over that for you. And you can also change brightness and contrast from a camera picture and so on. Or if you hit the camera button, you can also have the front view camera or the rear view camera over the whole screen like this. And here we go. So the digital instruments right here in the blue scheme for this PHEV version. And then you can see left side speed, right side RPMs. But in this case, the special one that we have this charging meter when we see the recuperation, for example. And in the middle, when you have the GPS route set, you can see the map. That's quite practical. And on the left side, you can see the fuel status. And on the right side, the electric range. Here at the moment, about 30 kilometers, but it's already below 50% of charging state. So then it would be 100 up to that, and then about 80 kilometers or 50 miles. So overall, quite cleverly used, definitely. And you can also see the driving modes. And when you are in a sport mode, then you get the maximum boost altogether, about 5.5 seconds acceleration to 1 kilometer or 62 miles an hour. Then you have the real RPMs from the combustion engine, because in the acceleration figure, yeah, Jonas likes to rev it up here for the combustion engine as well. And the thing is, you get almost the same acceleration as for the normal 40i 3-liter 6-cylinder. And one of the useful options is the head-up display for your current speed, but you will also have, for example, assistance systems information in there when you set those, and of course check your speed and also some GPS routes, so really helpful to keep your line of sight on the road. Getting in the rear of the car is very interesting. Well, it looks like any normal X5, and again soft touch materials here at the inside of the doors. Here a rather subtle design. I also like bright interiors, definitely, and the sensor tag is also available in beige, so that would be a great choice. USB-C chargers here at the backside of the seats if you like those. And there's also an additional AC unit if you like that. But still a lot of options to tick even here with the PHEV. And the most interesting thing is there any compromise with the rear bench? And I can tell you, no, there's not. It's the very same rear bench as any normal X5. Yeah, the rear legroom is not, it's not really that much. It's okay. I mean, for 4 tall adults, even 5 in the middle part, it's no problem. But considering, again, the exterior length to the interior length, the package, the relation is not that good. Headroom, this is no problem, also for taller people, so leaves a lot of headroom still here. And in the X6, by the way, you fall a little bit more backwards, so the X5 definitely is more comfortable. Isofix at the outside of the seats for installing child seats. You can put those covers off right there. They flip open. And then you can fold the seats right here already. That's possible. Also with the ski hatch, that would be another alternative, especially for all the guys here in Bavaria. So, cubby hole, cup holders. And can you actually also sit in the middle part? The middle tunnel is not that high. And, well, it's a little bit stiffer in the middle part, but that's actually quite okay for shorter terms. So you can also drive it with 5 adults. The 7-seater option, which is also now offered for the X5 in this generation, is not available for the plug-in hybrid. The reason for that is they are storing the battery basically underneath this bench, but then had to move the fuel tank a little bit further back there in the trunk. We'll soon discover that. But then no 7-seater available. But I mean, seriously, even in the X7, the 6 and the 7 seat is not really that suitable for tall people. For smaller ones, it's okay. Or for kids, yeah, that works. But here in the X5, I'm not sure if it really makes so much sense. So, I mean, I would go for this basic setup also in normal X5 anyway. So 500 liters up to 1,720 liters means you lose 80 to 140 liters in comparison to the normal X5 here with the PHEV, which still has the split opening. That's pretty cool. You can sit on it also with 2 people. That's no problem, and can have a picnic or something. The only thing you have to always remember here, those buttons, don't touch them, because let's say, maybe you have a blanket above that or something, and then someone stands up and hits it with a leg or something. It is possible, depending on, Here in this case, it doesn't stand out too much, but you can actually hit it with your leg like this, unintentionally, and then everything might close. And just think about, you have some picnic stuff on there, and then, oh my God! Not that this would have happened to me. Just very theoretically speaking. Yeah. But still, this split hatch is really cool. Still. But maybe next time, BMW engineers, or think about a lock function, like a picnic lock function where you can say, like, button is now without function or whatever. There might be something. Also, child safety test here. That works pretty well. And the lower part would also close. So, and now, this cover here. Why do they have this cover? Yeah, because of the background of the possible 7-seater. That's, of course, a little bit wobbly, no fixed rail at the side. Then, this is one short compromise. It's not that low, but that's actually no problem. You can store a charging cable right here. And this would be the fuel tank now, not the battery. The battery even placed further back. So they have to move the fuel tank to here. And otherwise, you could put this whole cover up and have a little bit more space. But that's a compromise we can really live with. The normal length is then also the very same as in the normal X5. Here we go. That's then about 1 meter in length. And we have even a little bit more than 1 meter, almost 1.10 meters in width. And the height here to the cover is about 45 centimeters. And the absolute height is almost 80 centimeters. And then we can also flip the seats from here. And they indeed go folding flat. That's always a very cozy function. I like when that is possible. And that is then almost 1.80 meters to my driving position. So overall, a very well usable car. I like that. And yeah, I always like to have those cars for holiday trips and stuff, like at the weekend or something. And you can do really a lot with, and then especially with this picnic bench. Even if it's just a short stop, like at a motorway parking lot or something. Welcome to Thomas's Driving Lounge with the BMW X5 in this new generation as the new PHEV 45e. And of course, the best thing, as always with PHEVs or electric vehicles, you start silently. And that's just really cool, especially in the city. No local emissions. Also talked to BMW about the overall emissions. If you think about, for the battery and so on, you have a little bit more effort for production, of course, but they made calculations for about 200,000 kilometers, assuming that would be like a normal life cycle of a car. Of course, it can also run longer. Then they said that even the overall emissions, and the resource and so on, because you have some fuel savings if you, of course, recharge frequently, would be like down to 30%, sometimes even more when you recharge with renewable energies. So their calculations at least say that it does also make sense overall. I can just stress it's about the charging infrastructure if you can recharge frequently, and of course best then if you have some renewable energy sources, then it really makes sense also for that one. And the new X5 is really cool as for the calmness in the interior. It's really silent also at higher speeds. And we just let the bus drive by. It's hard to handle the big cars, so always think about the big guys, the buses and the trucks. Definitely harder to handle than with the passenger cars here. So I think it really fits to this vehicle. That's also the same I already said with the GLE, because those vehicles are really sophisticated. They have, this tranquility in the ride. Here with the air suspension, especially a soft ride. A lot of comfort with those upright seating position, and then it always makes you calm down. Here, especially in the city, there's a lot of traffic now and so on, and then when it's just silent, that's of course the same for all electric vehicles, but especially for those that are very well insulated, it just makes you calm down. And when you have a city commuting or something, but when you recharge fully to 80 kilometers, 50 miles, you can do a lot with that already, So, and on the weekend you can still go on a longer trip and use this very nice 3-liter inline 6-cylinder. So there's always this discussion: is a PHEV combining the best of both worlds, or is it combining the worst of both worlds? You can argue for both, and both opinions are right. The question is just, what's your personal use case for this vehicle? And then the answer, is really given if it makes sense or not. Here again, easing around the traffic, again, all silent. That's pretty cool, and that's really what I love. With the hybrid mode, I can use it in the standard mode, or I can go to the Eco Pro mode, and then the recuperation, which is not just rolling, but it's also rolling, and then you can also use it in the electric mode. And then you can also use it in the electric mode, and then you can also use it in the standard mode, or I can go to the Eco Pro mode, and then the recuperation, which is not just rolling, but it's also rolling, and then you can also use it in the electric mode. And then you can also use it in the standard mode, or I can go to the Eco Pro mode, and then the recuperation, which is not just rolling, but it's also rolling, but it's not a harsh recuperation. But if you have the Eco Pro mode set, then the car checks, oh, is there like a car in front of me? Does it make sense to roll further now? Or does it rather make sense to use the regenerative braking a little bit more? And then I also feel, without using the brakes myself, how the car is adapting to that. So that makes sense. Also, I have a route set at the moment in the GPS. That also helps with the regenerative braking, because then map data is being transported into this whole process. And then, for example, in front of a roundabout, when the car says, oh, there's like a different speed limit, which the map data tells me, then the car is also adapting the recuperative braking to that, or regenerative braking. So that makes sense. So especially Eco Pro mode and setting yes, the gesture control is sometimes reacting when I'm doing some gestures here to the camera. So this, two different, important things to know about how this regenerative braking is working. Here, the shifting pedals, they are indeed for the combustion engine, and as soon as I use them, also the combustion engine gets active. So they are not for recuperation purposes. And I can always go to the electric mode to really stress that I want to drive all electric. For example, in this tunnel, makes sense. I want to drive all electric at the moment predominantly, and it would just jump to the combustion engine if I really pin down the throttle. And we can also do that when we drive a little bit outside. We will also soon go to the motorway. I want to present to you a very realistic driving scenario with some city traffic, and even like this. I can also set the cruise control in here with the assisted driving. So theoretically I could take my hands off the steering wheel. It's not meant to do that, but system-wise it would already work like that. Especially in traffic situations, it can relieve a lot of stress. Electric mode not possible for system reasons. Whatever system reasons are, that can always happen. But even if the combustion engine jumps on, you hardly hear it when it's at low rev. So it's a very refined engine also. Normal, not just combustion engine consumption here is about 9 liters on 100 kilometers. So that's also quite good for a car of that size. So by 23, 28 mpg, that's you can live with that definitely. And it will not change. I mean, this car is a little bit heavier due to the battery, but the base fuel consumption from just the combustion engine won't change that much then, just because you have a little bit more weight on board. So let's see. We'll get out of the tunnel here very soon, and then we have some more different driving situations here for you. You can also see how it looks at night here, also with some ambient light. That's also pretty cool, and again, so relaxing to drive this car. That's probably one of the coolest things. The air suspension in the X5 in general is a little bit stiffer than with other SUVs with air suspension. However, it's still very comfortable. The adaptive suspension would also do just fine. However, this one here, as I told you earlier, the PHEV is already coming as standard with the air suspension. So they just want to combine this package. And I do also have that in this vehicle. The rear axle steering is also possible to fit with this car. It's also fitted with this very test vehicle, and it reduces the turning circle by a meter, so that's pretty good. Oh, there's a BMW vintage car coming up, the very old. I think they're even like from the 50s. Wow, interesting. Really looks nice with those very vertical old BMW kidneys they had there in the front. So now we're getting to a little bit more speed, and the all-electric threshold is 135 kilometers or 80 miles an hour. Then it always goes to the combustion engine. Up to that speed you can still drive all electric, and if you hit all electric again, you can also just stress that, but it depends on them. Don't have the AC on at the moment. For some reasons they maybe need the combustion engine at some point, but then again, if you run it steady, it's also no problem. So you can play around a little bit with the driving mode and see what fits best to you. Definitely. Maybe at some point also when you have a route plan, the car says, maybe the electric mode is not the most efficient here, you know, and then it goes rather on the combustion engine mode, because when you're going like this here, 80 or 90 kilometers an hour, that is actually then on steady speed quite efficient with the combustion engine. So you always have to take that one into account as well. Some things vary from PHEV to PHEV. For example, how much power do we have with the all-electric drive? Is it just a helper, or is it also able to drive all-electric even with some, let's say, reasonable acceleration? And the thing here with this car is, it's rather like the GLE. You can also have an acceleration, and I just want to try out now when I go to the all-electric mode. Yeah, now it's possible again, and now I also see charging when I'm reducing the speed, and I can still have some electric acceleration, and yeah, I feel a resistance in the pedal, and then not much is coming then, and I would need to press it through, and then the combustion engine is getting active. But you can also have an electric acceleration with this one, can drive it all electric, no problem. With the Audi PHEVs recently, that was rather like planned that the electric drive is like more a helper and the combustion engine gets activated very soon. So BMW and Mercedes, obviously because they use bigger batteries, concentrate a little bit more on the all-electric driving as for that. And still here, even at 80 kilometers an hour, you could still have a, you know, advantage of that from being more silent, but also the combustion engine is that well insulated that you don't hear of that, you know, don't hear much of that. Just when you go into sports mode, the RPMs are also turned up a little bit higher, and you hear and get more from this combustion engine, and you have the combined power output, which is somewhat, you know, about this 5.5 second, which you also get with the 40i pure petrol engine, and that is actually quite decent. And the power delivery is a little bit different than with this one, because you have also this electric boost. Let's see, like this 70 kilometers to 100. Let's do that. That's it. So that goes quite quickly. And just the very first moment, you feel something of the e-power, but just a little bit, not too much. In the GLE, for example, I felt it a little bit more. So when you accelerate it out hard, it rather feels the same as the 40i, so not too much of a difference as for this respect. Also, all those highway driving situations and assistance systems are possible. So you have a blind spot monitor, so when this car is approaching us here, the yellow triangle is flashing. The car is also accelerating on its own now, because it realized there's now 120, a new speed limit. Then what's also possible is an automatic lane change, like this. Just hold down the turning indicator, and here this was not done by me, it was just the car. So this one is also now allowed again in Germany. It was forbidden for a couple of months due to regulation issues or something. Now they achieved it back again if you have this highest spec of the highway pilot. So I mean, that's also cozy function. It doesn't have to be that way, but you see that this car is steadily, you know, almost driving on its own. But definitely a very cool experience. And again, how silent is it here at 120 kilometers an hour? That's pretty cool. And let's see if we go back to the hybrid mode, what the car does. Yeah, it's leaving the combustion engine on, and if I go to the electric, yeah, in this case decides that it's better obviously with the combustion engine. I just want to try out now when we stop the route guidance, if that changes anything. So electric mode. So did that change anything now? So that's then the e-drive, the charge. I mean, everything is so silent, even the combustion, it's really hard to tell then what is active and what not. Yeah, it's really hard to tell. I mean, you have this e-boost function in here when you go to sport mode. There are the RPMs. I mean, you hardly hear any difference. Yeah, I mean, it's really hard to tell, but that's also what they wanted to achieve, that you have those very smooth transitions between everything. And you know, why not, you know? So maybe just leave that up to the car. The car should know what it's been doing best. The engineers have, you know, worked on that quite a lot. So it's obviously the route isn't changing that much to that. It's more about the recuperation. We can accelerate it out here in the sports mode to a higher speed if you like, so we have the possibility for that here now. The traffic would also allow that. So let's go into the middle lane, 130 kilometers or 125 kilometers an hour at the moment. So now, yeah, we need some space on the left lane, definitely. So let's accelerate 120. That's 160 kilometers an hour already, and yeah, that goes quite quickly. And I mean, as it is like this, it really feels like the normal 40i, and normal 40i is a very good engine and feels very well. And at this point, I also exceeded the threshold for the all-electric driving. So let's see if I go to the all-electric mode back here. Those situations when you go off the throttle, then you always can use some recuperation. That's also another advantage, of course. Or here the speed limit is lowered again, and then the energy is not lost. That's of course the advantage of a PHEV. And this can also be something where you say, yeah, even if I don't recharge it all the time, like every day, or I have some situations where there's no charging station nearby, a PHEV can still be somewhat, you know, better in the fuel economy, because you have this constant recuperation when you leave off the throttle, go on the brakes and so on. And first the recuperation is being used and then the real brakes, and it is predicted that for most of the situations then just the recuperative braking is actually enough, and you don't need the actual brakes for that. And that's of course good. Now we can accelerate out again. What happens when we're in electric drive mode? Yeah, then the combustion engine gets also active. It was from 120 kilometers an hour. And now we are at, and that's already 200 or 125 miles. But here again, some more traffic, so we have to go on the brakes again. But you see, even in electric mode, this acceleration was possible. Just the combustion engine was activated once again. And let's see this threshold induction. Yeah, here about. It's really funny now to play around with the system. And the eDrive power hops up and down and so on. So when here, over 140, yeah. I mean, it's really hard to tell what exactly happens with the drivetrain, because everything is rather hidden what is being done or not. So, but definitely a very interesting experience here with this vehicle, both inside the city and also on the motorway. And it doesn't feel too different actually from the 40i. So they made an effort that the electric version doesn't feel too much like, say, single electric. Why not? I think the GLE felt more different from the normal GLE, for example. Oh, now, it's interesting. There's like a second threshold in the throttle, so experience more and more what happens. One more last thing, by the way. If you are, let's say, concerned, what about the long-term durability of this engine when suddenly it's first cold and it sets in and so on? So talk to the engineer about that, and they actually said that first of all the engines themselves got better and better. So in the past, like years ago, like first the hybrid models, there were some problems with that, but now not anymore. And also for the PHEV models, some parts of the engines are built a little bit stronger even, so they can sustain being approached when they are still cold. And also the electric drive takes some of the pressure out of this first acceleration. So the engineer said then in their figures and statistics and so on, and now we're already driving 160 kilometers again, and it's really very silent here, just to stress it again. So they actually said that in their long-term statistics, those PHEV models do not have any significantly more engine failures as other cars. So that seems to be, at least as they say, not to be an issue, at least not anymore. So it's also one of the very interesting things to cover. Here again, for example, the ACC reducing the speed, distance to the car in front of me being kept, regenerative braking is being used, and so on. And yeah, I mean, the final mixed fuel economy, that's always so hard to tell. For example, here it says now the mixed fuel economy is 6 liters on 100 kilometers. So, you know, that's rather towards the 40 mpg region. So that's pretty cool. It always depends on, you know, so how much you recharge or not, how much you drive this car electrically, and then really realistic mixed fuel economy is then, I mean, can you even say that for a plug-in hybrid? So, because it really depends on, you know, when and how much you recharge or not. So, what do you think? Would you go for an X5 as PHEV? Might make sense also financially, depending on your governmental benefit programs here for that one. Again, not too much different to the 40i. Then you have some electric situations, calmness in the city. So, would I go for one? Especially with the German tax model at the moment, I think yes, because I would save actually quite some money, definitely, especially if I register it as a company car and use this 1% taxation per month for private use, which is then 0.5% for the PHEV at the moment and for electric vehicles, so that would totally make sense. It's not too different from the 40i, which I would usually buy probably for this car at the moment. You can be a little bit more eco-friendly and again, locally emission-free and more silent inside the city. So I think for a lot of people this can actually make sense now with the new updated all-electric range. And now to our conclusion for today with the BMW X5 as 45e, the plug-in hybrid. Well, it pretty much drives in the normal combustion mode like the normal 40i with the inline 6-cylinder petrol engine, and that's also what they wanted to achieve on the one hand. So there's not like a big change for you if you come from this engine or a similar engine from the predecessor. But then the driving with the all-electric, especially in the city, is so much more calm and a little bit more sophisticated. Those electric moments are pretty cool, and if you just use the brakes, even on the motorway when you drive more than the pure electric speed allows, you know, the power is not really that much lost. You can also use this regenerative braking all the time, and I really think that the all-silent, all-electric driving really fits to the calm and driving experience to this vehicle. So that's actually pretty cool. And again, if maybe it makes also financially sense for you together with some governmental or taxation programs, then it's even more attractive. Other than that, to drive locally emission-free, that's of course good, and also all-silent for your neighbors and so on. Well, and especially with this new electric range, 50 miles or 80 kilometers, that really makes sense then, especially if you recharge frequently, maybe even every day, and just use the normal household plug and let this car stand overnight. That will do just fine. Then we can also excuse somewhat that the kilowatt charging power here for the AC charger is not, let's say, you know, that sophisticated as it would be probably also with some of the competitors. So they did not put any emphasis on that. So, and if you just look at the normal fuel consumption of the combustion engine, which is about 9 liters on 100 kilometers, if you just use it as a combustion engine, which is about 26 mpg US or 31 mpg UK, that's still quite reasonable. And our total fuel consumption, yeah, it's already spent. Can you really take it for a PHEV? Was about 6 liters on 100 kilometers for today, which is 39 mpg US and 47 mpg UK. But again, this really depends on, are you using all this electric power first? Are you using the hybrid mode? How often are you recharging and so on? But just to give you know, like a small hint, but definitely fuel consumption still goes down even after you have depleted the battery, because you could still always use this regenerative braking. So also tune into the GLE PHEV review. Maybe also check out some other engine versions we have tested with the BMW X5 in this new generation. See you there, guys, and leave us some comments about this very car.